My beloved child, listen closely because this moment carries a truth that has been waiting quietly behind many unanswered thoughts, and today that truth is beginning to move closer than before. There was a silence you could never fully explain, a pause that often made you wonder why someone who felt so deeply could remain so distant, why words stayed hidden when emotions were clearly alive beneath the surface. But what seemed like distance was never as simple as it appeared. Something far deeper was unfolding where you could not see it, and that hidden struggle is now reaching a point where silence can no longer hold everything inside. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you, and the next few moments carry meaning that may connect pieces you have been trying to understand for a very long time. There were nights when this person almost spoke everything openly. There were moments when they held words at the edge of their lips, ready to tell you exactly how much they wanted to remain, how strongly they wished life had given them another path, another timing, another way to stay near without resistance pressing from every direction. Yet every time they came close, something inside them reminded them of unfinished burdens, responsibilities they could not easily set aside, fears they did not know how to explain without sounding weak. What you did not see was how often your presence returned to their thoughts even during ordinary hours. In places where no one noticed, your memory entered quietly, during work, during travel, during still moments when everything around them looked normal but their mind was somewhere else entirely. They carried unfinished conversations with you inside themselves, repeating what they wished they had said differently, what they should have protected, what they should have chosen before circumstances became complicated. Stay till the end, because something once hidden is slowly moving toward the surface, and not everything delayed has been forgotten. There were times when they convinced themselves distance was necessary, that stepping back was wiser than making promises while life around them remained unstable. But even while they tried to create distance, their heart kept returning to the same question: what if leaving quietly became the very thing they would regret most later? The truth is that this person never fully closed the door in their heart. Outwardly, they may have looked calm, occupied, or even detached, but inwardly they kept revisiting moments connected to you. Certain words you spoke stayed longer than they expected. Certain expressions, certain small details, certain memories kept returning without invitation. They tried to move through daily routines as though everything had settled, yet there remained one unfinished feeling that never truly lost its place. Don't skip, because what looked ordinary from outside was not ordinary inside them. There were days when they nearly reached out, almost choosing honesty over caution. Their hand moved, then stopped. Their thoughts gathered, then scattered. They feared saying too much after saying too little for so long. They feared that if they spoke now, it might sound late, incomplete, or difficult to trust. And still, despite all hesitation, the desire to speak honestly never disappeared. What stood in the way was not the absence of feeling. It was the weight of circumstances that arrived at the wrong time. Life became crowded with obligations, decisions, pressure from directions they had not prepared for. Sometimes people around them influenced their silence more than you realized. Sometimes expectations built walls they did not know how to explain. Sometimes they believed waiting was safer than speaking before they understood their own path. But waiting created another struggle. Because silence protects nothing forever. Silence only deepens questions. Silence makes ordinary days heavier when emotions remain active underneath. And now that weight has become difficult for them to ignore. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. A shift is happening quietly, and this shift began when they realized that time does not erase what is real, it only reveals whether it remains. What remained was your place in their thoughts. What remained was the unfinished sentence they never delivered. What remained was the feeling that perhaps the story was paused, not ended. There are things they want you to know but have rehearsed only in silence. They want you to know that leaving was not as easy as it looked. They want you to know that staying mattered more to them than they admitted. They want you to know that certain moments apart felt far longer because your absence carried more weight than they expected. They want you to understand that some people leave physically while emotionally still standing near the place they never fully wanted to leave. And now, because inner truth becomes stronger when hidden too long, their heart is beginning to move toward honesty in ways they can no longer delay. Even if words arrive slowly, even if timing still feels uncertain, something inside them has changed. They no longer feel peace pretending nothing mattered. They no longer feel comfortable acting untouched by what remained unfinished. Don't skip, because the next chapter begins when silence becomes too heavy to continue carrying. This is not about dramatic promises. This is about a quiet truth becoming impossible to ignore. A person who once stayed silent is beginning to understand that honesty matters more than perfect timing. A person who once thought distance would simplify everything is realizing that certain connections remain present even through long quiet seasons. And before this moment passes, hold this carefully. Sometimes hearts speak late not because feelings were weak, but because life became louder than courage. Yet even loud circumstances cannot permanently silence what keeps returning with strength. Something meaningful is approaching its moment to be spoken, and what has been hidden for so long is preparing to step closer than before. Yet there is something even deeper that must be understood now, because what looked like hesitation was often a private battle they never found the right language to explain. There were moments when this person stood in complete silence while their heart was full of words, and even then they were imagining what would happen if they finally told you everything without holding anything back. They imagined saying that leaving was never their true wish, that distance never felt natural, that even while trying to move through daily life they kept feeling a quiet pull toward what remained unfinished between you. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you, and this next truth changes how the silence should be understood. There were days when they looked completely normal to everyone around them, but inwardly they were carrying conversations that had never happened. They replayed small memories, not because they wanted to stay trapped in the past, but because certain moments with you kept returning with unusual strength. A single remembered word, a certain expression, a simple detail others would forget quickly, these became part of their quiet thinking more often than anyone would guess. What made everything harder was that life did not slow down when their feelings became clearer. Instead, responsibilities grew louder. New demands arrived. Decisions that had nothing to do with emotion still controlled their days. And every time they thought of reaching out, another reason appeared telling them to wait until life looked more stable, until circumstances looked less uncertain, until they could explain themselves without sounding incomplete. But waiting never removed what they felt. Waiting only made their inner voice stronger. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. There was one particular moment, one quiet moment. They realized that even after trying to focus elsewhere, your presence still remained in ways they could not ignore. It happened unexpectedly, during an ordinary hour when nothing dramatic was happening around them, and suddenly they understood that what they had been trying to set aside had never truly left. That realization stayed with them longer than they expected. This is why their heart has begun changing direction. The distance they once accepted no longer feels simple. The silence they once defended no longer feels comfortable. They have started asking themselves difficult questions. Why does one person still return to my thoughts after so much silence? Why do unfinished words still feel important? Why does it still feel like something meaningful remains unsaid? Don't skip, because this part matters more than it first appears. They know that from your side, many things may have felt unclear. They know silence can create confusion. They know delayed honesty can make trust difficult. Yet what they are carrying now is not casual reflection. It is a growing awareness that certain truths cannot remain hidden forever if they continue to hold emotional weight. There were times when they almost convinced themselves that enough time had passed, that maybe silence had already decided everything. But then another memory returned. Another feeling rose unexpectedly. Another reminder appeared that what they tried to quiet still remained alive beneath the surface. That is why what is approaching now feels different from earlier moments. It is no longer only emotion, it is understanding. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. They are beginning to understand that not every important connection disappears just because life interrupted its natural path. Some connections stay present quietly, waiting until inner clarity becomes strong enough to overcome fear. That clarity is growing now. And while no one around them fully knows what they are carrying, they themselves know that their silence has lasted longer than they intended. They know some words should have arrived earlier. They know certain explanations belong to you, because what looked like withdrawal was often a struggle they never fully revealed. Now a quiet decision is forming inside them. Honesty may still arrive, even if late, because carrying unspoken truth has become heavier than speaking carefully at last. Something inside them is preparing for that step, even if slowly, even if cautiously, even if they still fear how their words may be received. Don't skip, because the next movement in this story begins where silence loses its strength. A person who once stepped back is now feeling the weight of unfinished truth more strongly than before. And when that happens, hearts often move in ways even they did not expect, because sometimes the strongest return begins not with noise, but with one deeply honest moment they can no longer postpone. And now the quiet truth becomes even stronger, because what they once tried to keep under control is no longer staying where they placed it. There is a difference between missing someone for a moment and realizing that no matter how carefully life moves forward, one presence continues to return with meaning. That is exactly where they now find themselves, standing in ordinary days while carrying an extraordinary awareness that your place inside their heart never became ordinary. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you. And this next layer explains why their silence has recently become heavier than before. They have begun noticing how often your memory appears without warning. A familiar phrase, a passing moment, a certain time of day, even silence itself has started reminding them of what they never fully said. And each reminder feels less like memory and more like unfinished truth asking to be acknowledged. There was a time when they believed distance would create emotional clarity, that stepping away would help everything settle naturally. But instead of fading, some feelings became sharper because they were no longer distracted by constant conversation. In quiet moments, they began seeing what they had hidden even from themselves, that leaving did not remove what mattered, it only delayed the moment they would finally understand how much it mattered. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. Recently, they have been looking at life differently. What once felt urgent around them now feels temporary. What once seemed impossible to explain now feels necessary to face. And with that shift comes a realization they cannot ignore. Some truths become louder when a person tries too long to keep them silent. They remember specific moments more clearly now than before. Not dramatic moments, but simple ones. The kind that unexpectedly stay in the heart longer than major events. A sentence you may not even remember saying. A small exchange that looked ordinary at the time. A feeling they had in one quiet second that they never explained to anyone. These details have remained alive, and the fact that they remain alive has forced them to ask why. Don't skip, because this is where the story turns deeper. They know they cannot continue pretending life alone caused every silence. Part of that silence also came from fear, the fear that speaking honestly after delay would expose how much they still cared, how much they still wondered, how much they still carried questions about what could have happened if circumstances had been kinder. And now something unexpected is happening inside them. The fear of remaining silent has started becoming greater than the fear of speaking. That change may look invisible from outside, but inside it changes everything. Because once a heart reaches that point, honesty begins moving closer step by step, even before words fully arrive. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. They are no longer simply remembering, they are measuring what remains important. They are comparing every attempt to move on with the truth that certain emotions still return unchanged. They are beginning to understand that what remained in silence did not weaken, it waited. There are moments when they imagine how the first honest words would sound if they finally allowed themselves to speak fully. Not dramatic words, not perfect words, but true words, that they wanted to stay longer than they admitted, that leaving never felt complete, that life interrupted what their heart did not know how to protect at the right time. Don't skip, because this next truth matters deeply. They are also aware that time changes how words are received. They know delayed honesty carries risk. They know silence can create distance that is difficult to cross. Yet despite all that, the inner pull remains. And when something remains after silence, after time, after distraction, it often means that its meaning was never small. So now they are standing at an inner threshold, between continuing the silence they no longer trust, and stepping toward truth they can no longer avoid. That threshold is where hearts become honest, sometimes slowly, sometimes unexpectedly, but never without reason. And what is moving now is not temporary emotion. It is recognition. Recognition that some people leave your daily view but never fully leave your emotional world. Recognition that what was interrupted still carries life beneath the surface. Recognition that a heart once quiet may soon choose words because silence has reached its limit. What is unfolding now cannot remain hidden much longer, because there comes a point when even the strongest silence begins to reveal what it has been protecting. This person has reached a moment where their own heart no longer agrees with the distance they once accepted. What they thought they could carry quietly has become heavier with each passing day, and now even ordinary moments feel different because something inside them keeps returning to the same unfinished truth. You were never as far from their heart as their silence suggested. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you, and this part carries the deepest shift yet. They have recently begun noticing that every attempt to stay emotionally distant creates more inner questions instead of peace. The more they try to act unaffected, the more clearly they understand that certain feelings did not disappear, they only became quieter while growing stronger underneath. There are moments now when they pause during simple routines, and suddenly everything inside becomes reflective. A familiar hour of the day, a quiet room, a passing thought, these ordinary things now open memories they once tried to keep closed. And what surprises them most is not that memories return, but how alive they still feel. Some moments connected to you remain untouched by time, almost as if they were waiting for attention. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. They are beginning to see that what they called bad timing was only one part of the story. The other part was hesitation caused by not knowing whether honesty after silence would still matter, whether words delayed for so long could still reach your heart with meaning. Yet even that hesitation is weakening now, because silence has stopped feeling safe. They know there are things they should have explained earlier. They know some of their distance may have looked intentional when in truth much of it came from inner conflict they did not know how to express. They wanted clarity before speaking, but life kept changing faster than their courage. And while they waited for the perfect moment, many important words remained trapped inside unfinished thoughts. Don't skip, because this next truth changes everything. What they are carrying now is not simply regret, it is realization. Realization that staying silent did not protect anything valuable. Realization that some feelings deserve truth even if the timing is imperfect. Realization that what continues returning after so much time often carries meaning that cannot be dismissed. There are quiet sentences forming inside them now, sentences they have repeated privately more than once. They imagine saying that they wanted to stay longer than they showed. They imagine admitting that walking away never fully settled inside them. They imagine telling you that life became complicated in ways they were not ready to explain, but even through that complexity, your presence remained. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. What matters now is that this inner movement is no longer temporary. It has reached a depth where they cannot easily return to old silence. Once a heart starts questioning its own distance this deeply, something always changes. Sometimes the first visible sign is small, but inwardly it means everything has already begun shifting. They are also aware that honesty requires humility. It requires admitting that silence lasted too long. It requires facing the possibility that words may arrive later than expected. But despite all of that, the desire to finally speak truthfully has become stronger than before. Don't skip, because the story is reaching a point where hidden emotion begins preparing for visible action. A person who once believed staying quiet was easier now feels that truth deserves movement. And even if that movement begins slowly, the direction has changed. What they once tried to leave behind has returned with greater clarity. What they once postponed now feels important. What they once thought life had closed is standing quietly before them again, asking to be understood honestly. And when a heart reaches that moment, it no longer searches for perfect words, it searches for courage, because courage becomes the only path left when silence can no longer carry what the heart refuses to forget.